inland block, which has been over the North Atlantic, keeping the trough over the East Coast, finally breaks down, and it looks like we're going to see a significant warming trend going into the middle of next week.
I think so, and I'm a little gun shy almost with this. I think I'm maybe being on the conservative side of things because I don't want to guarantee it's going to feel like spring out here, but
no.
It looks like for a couple of days it's going to feel like spring.
Yeah.
So maybe we can root that along. There are probably some caveats to this. I think the middle of the next week is probably your best bet for some really nice warmth. And then I'm a little bit more uncertain going into next weekend. That's when it could maybe go either way. But I think 60s, for the first time in a while, are certainly in play. I'd have to look for us. I think the last time we were above 60, Brad, in my area was back in the first 10 days of January. So that's a long time ago.
Yeah, we got the first low above freezing, was it yesterday, I think, since the 23rd of January for us. And tomorrow I've got a low 50 in our forecast. That'll be the first time since the middle of January as well. Tomorrow might be the best of the weekend. Then it gets cold. But what's interesting, you mentioned that, like the ridge, I can see the conservative nature here because it's not like the ridge is centered over the southeast, right? It's in the middle of the country. And we're kind of on the edge. So how close are we to that ridge, and is it enough to warm us up? But what's very interesting to me is that, like you said, next weekend, could we see a flip right back with another digging trough? And I certainly think there's a storm around next weekend. I know the social media meteorologists are all over like trying to hype something up. It does look like a storm system, but I think it's a little early to get too crazy with, is it a winter storm? Is it severe weather? It definitely looks like a storm of some kind, and the track's a little uncertain, but it looks unsettled, to say the least, next weekend.
I had so many questions about Valentine's Day in my inbox. There must be some viral post somewhere that's just going all in on something. And I don't know which one it is, but I don't support it. I don't endorse it.
Yeah.
It's just too far away right now to worry about that stuff. So we got plenty else to worry about. Worry about the next couple of days. It'll be warmer next week. We'll worry about next weekend when we get a little bit closer to it. So we'll figure it out eventually.
That was my stock answer when I got this. I got the same questions, and I was like, somebody was saying there's a winter storm next week. I was like, well, first of all, can we get to the warm up first and then see what happens after that? We're like, we're like 3 steps ahead of where we are. So yeah, I totally agree. February's a wild month. As we get into February and March, I think we forget in the Carolinas, even when we have a mild winter, we've had severe weather, we've had snow in March. To me, this is some of the most turbulent times of the year because the jet stream is really crazy. You could have huge ridges, huge troughs, but we are getting into that wacky season, kind of the wild part of the late winter, early spring season.
Absolutely. And a lot of times in recent years, February has been very warm.
Yes.
So we'll have to see what happens this go around. You've already noticed, though, the longer days are getting here. And it's getting light later. A couple weeks away, we have 6 o'clock sunsets. For us, it's Valentine's Day, the first one.
Yeah. Today was a 5:56 for us, so we're only a couple days away from a 6 o'clock sunset. And I've noticed that more and more because when we work in our business, you look at the cameras during our 6 o'clock news, and I'm like, hey, it's still twilight out. I can actually see something. So that's a good sign. So we're out of time tonight. We'll see you back here tomorrow. We got the opening Olympics here on WCNC and the Super Bowl this weekend. So a lot going on down here in Charlotte on WCNC. But we've got more WCNC Plus and WFMY Plus coming up after the break. Stick around.
Welcome back, everyone. Had a quick break there between Brad and I. I'm Colin Mayfield here inside the Impact Studio. Our producer, Sean, is still on the dial, pressing and making sure we look good and sound good. And we're going to start tonight with an update in the Guthrie case. Obviously, Nancy Guthrie is still missing. There's been finally a ransom type of note that's been confirmed that was received, or at least talked about yesterday. So we're going to get more information from authorities right now.
Trying not to cover any of these microphones up. Good morning. I hope you've been kind of informed of the rules. I'm going to try to get as many, if not all of you, an opportunity to ask a question. But last time we tried this, it was just kind of chaotic, people yelling. So I'd ask that you just kind of be patient with me, pay attention to the questions asked, because sometimes you guys want to ask the same question twice, and you're going to get the same answer. So help yourself get what you can out of this. I'm going to give you one question and a follow-up, okay? But before we get there, I do have some comments. First of all, I want to begin by offering our condolences to our partners at the state Department of Public Safety's tragically lost 2 members last night in a helicopter crash up in northern Arizona. So if you would keep them in your prayers, Colonel Glover and his team, I'm sure, would greatly appreciate it. Along the same lines, I think you all saw last night, I'm trying to speak up, not yell, because apparently I talk soft. We saw last night the family, they just hurt, understandably so. And so I really want you to know this entire team here, those behind me, and our community are hurting with you. We really just want Mom back, okay? Right now, we believe Nancy is still out there. We want her home. Our department, the Sheriff's Department, along with all of our partners at the FBI, have been working around the clock. And we just want her home and find a way to get to the bottom of all of this, just as you do. But I have other partners out there who have stepped up, and you've probably noticed them in the last few days, if not the last few hours, and you're going to see more of that. Well, I made a decision to contact our PCRIT team, and those of you not local, that's our Pima Regional Critical Incident Team. It's made up of law enforcement officers from this entire valley. Pasquayaki Police Department, Tucson Police Department, Marana Police Department, Oro Valley Police Department, Pima College Police Department, Tucson International Police Department, Sarita Police Department. There's so many of them, and they are going to help us tremendously. And that's really done because we have so much in front of us still, and we're hoping that, I know the FBI has committed a very large number of men and women to partner with us, work side by side with us. We go do an interview, they're going to be there with us. We're going to go look at some evidence or process evidence, they're going to be right there with us. We're sharing every piece of information, all the data we can to get this thing solved. And it's important that my partners in law enforcement know and understand their roles, because it is very large, complex investigation with a lot of moving parts. And we're at that phase now where sometimes we're waiting, right? We're waiting for analysis. We're waiting for lab reports. But even then, when they come back quickly, for example, some DNA, we rushed what we thought was the best target for DNA. We did a rush through and got some of that back. The results were minimal. I think you all know the blood on the porch. That was one we did. It came back to Nancy. That's what we know. But there's still more items that have been submitted. We just haven't got them back yet. But in the meantime, we're not just sitting on our haunches waiting. We do have a number of leads coming in, and that's why we brought in the FBI for one, but PCRIT as well. to be able to get out there and handle these leads as they come in as quickly and as expeditiously as we can. And every single lead is looked at, every one of them. And so we're gearing up. You probably have some questions about what you've seen in the last couple of days. I'll gladly answer those at that time. But it really is about getting our partners out there. To be fair, when we went to that scene the first night, Saturday night, it was just us. Since then, the FBI and others have asked, can we go and see it as well? And that's what you've been seeing. But it is a very important case to not just me and my team, but this entire community, all of our law enforcement partners. Suspects. I know there's been a lot out there about suspects, and I want to be very clear. At this time, we have not identified a suspect or a person of interest in this case. We are working our best to do that. But to be clear, we have nobody of interest or any suspects that you would consider a prime suspect. We're just not there. We're not there yet. The timeline, I think we've got it on the board, do we not? This is a timeline that we have been able to develop with some of the things that we've had processed. Various pieces of electronics that we've gathered. And you look at some of this, and I know you're going to say, well, why did it take you so long to get this to us, Sheriff? Well, because one thing, it's got to go out and be processed at different lab sites, and sometimes that stuff comes back to us, and like you, we have questions. And we say, wait a minute, what is this about? What about this? Could it be that? And so it's sent back, or it's sent somewhere else. So, and that's happening with all of the things we see, that process, that review, and that questioning of, all right, what is it we're looking at? So I'll go over it with you. You can see it on the board there, but at about 5:32 p.m., these are approximate times. 5:32 p.m., Nancy travels to her local family's home for dinner and playing games with the family, just visiting. At 9:48 p.m., which is very consistent to what we were told by the family, that Nancy was dropped off at home, and we know that because we have a garage door open at approximately, I can't stress that enough, at approximately 9:48 p.m. At 9:50 p.m., that garage door closes, which is that time we assume that Nancy's home and probably going to bed. Sunday morning, early morning, at 1:47 a.m., the doorbell camera disconnects. At 2:12 a.m., software detects a person on a camera, but there's no video available. They had no subscription, and therefore it would rewrite itself. It just kind of loops, right, and covers up. That's what our analysis teams have told us. We're not done with that. We'll do all we can, but that's what it says. So it detects a person on camera. Could that be an animal? I imagine that's possible. We don't know that. We just have no video. But we're not giving up on that. 2:28. Nancy's pacemaker app shows that it was a disconnect from the phone. And at 11:56 a.m., the family checks on Nancy and discovers her missing. And at 12:03 p.m., 911 is called in to the Pima County Sheriff's Department. I believe it's about approximately 10 minutes later, 12 minutes later, our patrol teams arrive. They see the scene, and we start our response with our search and rescue teams and our detectives from homicide and various units. In fact, every unit here, I think somebody questioned, how come there's an ICAC member out here, or this member? Everybody in our criminal investigations team is a part of this team and part of this investigative effort. I think with that, let me make sure. I want to clarify some things that I may have already done, but yeah, I've gone over with the blood at the front door, the doorbell camera. It was removed, we know that, but we're not confirming that any cameras were smashed or destroyed around the house. I don't know where that came from, but that's something we're not confirming. The car. The car that was at the home, it's just standard investigative practices. It's part of the search warrant scene, court orders. We pull it out of there and do our scene processing with the vehicle. Uber. We did speak to a driver because Nancy, we learned, had been taken the Uber to the family residence, the daughter, for dinner. And we located that driver and spoke with them and got that information. The house, you guys got this, I think, conducting follow-up. I think you said somebody had mentioned that they saw a team out there again last night or yesterday, and that's just, again, what I was talking about before. Our partners wanted a chance to see it and examine things themselves, and more importantly, it's just we're constantly following up on things and go, hey, what about this? So we want to go back and check on some things. Oh, here's the other thing. Someone had mentioned there was forced entry. I have no clue where that comes from. We have been very consistent. We are not discussing that at all. Whether it's forced entry or not forced entry, that is something we're just not discussing. So I don't know where anybody got that information. I think I am about done with my piece of this. I'm going to bring up here Heath Yankee, and I think you know him if you haven't been here. John Edwards is the assistant agent in charge with the FBI here at the Tucson office. Heath Yankee is the special agent in charge for the state of Arizona out of Phoenix, and he will come up and speak.
Thank you, Sheriff. Hello, I'm Heath Yankee, the special agent in charge of the FBI's Phoenix Division. First, I want to let the Guthrie family know that our hearts are heavy for them. After seeing your message last night, it is clear that you and your family are in pain. Please know that we are doing everything to bring your mother home. The FBI is now working this case jointly with the Pima County Sheriff's Department, and we're going to start today by announcing a $50,000 reward for information leading to the recovery of Nancy Guthrie and or the arrest and conviction of anyone involved in her disappearance, and this will be the missing persons with the reward that will be going out. The FBI has agents, analysts, and professional staff employees working day and night with our partners at the Sheriff's Department. We have deployed additional intelligence and agents from our Phoenix office. We have brought in our Critical Incident Response Group from Quantico, Virginia. Members from our Cellular Analysis Survey team are here, and they continue to collect and process digital information. We are actively reviewing and analyzing information from all digital sources, which includes banks, social media companies, phone companies, and any other organizations where a digital footprint could have been captured. All this information provides data points and helps put the picture together. And we will be in the community continuing to conduct a thorough investigation with our partners. You heard about us out there last night. We will be back out there today. I would ask the media, give our investigators the space to do their jobs while they're out there. Next, regarding the ransom letter. We are aware of a ransom letter that was sent to the local media and then to national outlets. As with every lead, we are taking it seriously. We are in communication with the family, and while we advise and recommend from a law enforcement perspective, any action taken on any ransom is ultimately decided by the family. Thank you to those in the community that have called in tips. For anyone out there that may have information, no matter how small you think it may be, please report it. You can do so by calling 1-800-CALL-FBI or online at tips.fbi.gov. My next message is to those imposters who are trying to take advantage and profit from this situation. We will investigate and ensure you are held accountable for your actions. We have made one arrest related to an imposter ransom demand, and a complaint will be presented to a magistrate judge later today. You will get more on that from the FBI and our U.S. Attorney's Office here in Arizona when it becomes available. To anyone that may be involved, do the right thing. This is an 84-year-old grandma. This is an 84-year-old grandma that needs vital medication for her well-being. You still have the time to do the right thing before this becomes a much worse scenario for you. Please return Nancy home. Thank you.
All right, so do you want to call him or you want me to call him?
You can call him up.
Okay, so the first person we're going to start with the list is going to be NBC National, Liz Fritz. Right here.
Can you walk us through that timeline from when you believe, if you look at this here, from 147 to 228, what you think happened there and what particular software would have detected somebody on camera?
I don't. I know we know the software that was there, but I'm not. I'm sorry, I'm just not in the weeds.
So,
I know that. Think of your doorbell cameras. Somebody walks up. My wife's. If I walk up, she gets an alert, and it's usually something like that. A person's detected.
So to understand then the follow-up, one, does that mean that it was about a 45-minute span that this suspect or suspects would have been on the property? And then also, does this essentially mean that you've cooperated with the tech companies and you can officially say that no surveillance video is available from the home?
We know that the tech company that we sent that camera off to, yes, they've said they've run out of ways to recover any video.
And was that about 45
Next
minutes?
person's going to be ABC News, Aaron Katersky.
Yeah. I'm sorry, what 45 minutes?
Can we say it's about a 45-minute span that somebody would have been on the property then, from 147 to 228?
Yeah, I think those times speak for themselves, and it is about, like I say, those are approximates, so yes. I'm sorry, who was next, did you
Aaron
say?
Katersky, ABC News.
Hi, Sheriff. Thanks very much. Is there information that you are purposefully withholding because of the active investigation that might be leading you in a particular direction?
You know, this is no different than any criminal investigation that we conduct here. Law enforcement has conducted investigations since 1865 here in Pima County. We're always mindful of what it is that's in front of us and what we should release and can release. There's legal guidelines that guide us, but there's also strategy too. So, I'll leave that for you to determine.
Now that you are having such an injection of manpower from the Pima Critical Incident Team and the FBI, were you slow to bring that in at the outset? Should all of these resources been brought to bear sooner?
I guess that, it's Monday morning quarterbacking. I do it all the time, so you have the opportunity to do it for me. I'll take that hit.
CBS News, Jonathan Migliotti.
Sheriff, over here, has there been any proof of life, and has there been any sign of life?
I'm going to, anything to deal with the ransom notes and that, I would defer to the FBI, but no, to my knowledge, we're still looking for Nancy.
And for my follow-up question, if I can speak with the special agent, what was it about this apparent ransom note that now 3 days on, you first haven't been able to validate, and second, it warranted informing the Guthries of its existence?
So the ransom note that was sent out there, obviously every lead in this case we are taking extremely serious.
But not everyone is presented to the family. Why this one?
Because this was the ransom that came in and it had facts associated with a deadline, with a monetary value they were asking for. So at that point...
What were some of those facts, if you can, because there's been a lot of speculation, as you know, if you can set the record straight.
Yeah, the ransom itself, one talked about an Apple Watch and one talked about a floodlight. We're not going to go into specifics. It's very important that we keep this investigation moving forward, and we don't want to put more facts out there that others then can use to try to profit from this.
Who else would know about an
CNN,
Apple
next,
Watch?
Ed Lavandera.
Hey, Agent, I want to follow up with you real quick on that. There have been, as far as we know, I think 3 ransom notes so far, 1 arrest. Are they all different? Or do you think there's different authors behind all of them? Or
So the one that went to the media is the one we were currently investigating and working on. The imposter that I talked about, where an arrest was made early this morning, that there will be more information. We believe there's no evidence to connect this to Nancy's case. It was someone that was trying to profit from it, a total imposter.
And Sheriff, you started off the press conference by saying you believe that Nancy is still out there. Do you have reason to believe that she's still out there alive? Or are you fearful of the worst case scenario here, that she won't be found alive?
Well, I'm certainly fearful of that. I think we all are. But it is we operate from a position that until we know she's out there, she's alive, and we're going to continue thinking that way until we find her.
Fox Digital, Mike Reese.
Yeah, sir. Michael Rivas from Fox Digital. Sheriff, you said you've identified no suspects. Have you ruled out anyone she was with on Saturday night?
You know, we've talked to so many. I'm sure that my investigators have feelings about this one's clear or this one isn't. But no, I wouldn't say anybody's ruled out yet, because what if I rule you out and then later I learn something else? No.
So my follow-up, you mentioned that you don't know where the reporting of a forced entry came from. Do we know how whoever did this got into her house?
That I would not discuss with you anyway.
Fox News, Paul Morrow.
Question for Agent Edwards, if I may. Agent Edwards, will the Bureau be submitting the DNA investigative genealogical investigation relative to maybe hitting a relative, somebody that you walk?
I would say the DNA aspect of this case is being handled by the Pima County Sheriff's Department right now. However, should we get to that point, yes, that would be an option for the FBI to assist.
And a quick follow-up, does the ransom note that you're working establish any communication protocols in it?
No, it does not. And that is what I think is important, that if someone has Nancy and is demanding the ransom, that there is communication with the family. We talked about has been no proof of life, and there was no other demands within that letter. So they're still waiting for communication.
ABC affiliate, Ashley Holden.
Yeah, right here, Ashley Holden. When you say the doorbell camera was disconnected, do you believe that that camera was taken?
We do not have it in our possession. We've not located it.
Okay. And then a follow-up. I know that we've been hearing a lot about ransom notes. We were also hearing in that video that was put out by the Guthrie siblings, and I don't know if this is a question for the FBI or yourself, but the challenges of seeing an image and knowing that it's real. Could one of you address that? Has the family received correspondence, any images, videos?
So we're not going to go into facts regarding this part of the investigation. I think part of that message was, with AI these days, you can make videos that appear to be very real. So we can't just take a video and trust that that is a proof of life these days because of the advancements in AI, and trying to actually get a proof of life that we can verify. But we're not going to go into anything the family may or may not have received.
KOLD, Catherine Patterson.
So in regards to a timeline on that ransom note, is that being an impact in your investigation? Are we nearing that timeline?
I'm sorry, one more time.
So in regards to the timeline in the ransom note, are we nearing that timeline? And is that playing a part in the investigation?
We're not going to go again into specifics of that part of the investigation with the ransom note, other than what we've put out there. We've been transparent. We're talking about we are working that ransom demand, but we don't want to go anything further than that could impact any opportunities. So thank you.
Is there any additional physical evidence at the crime scene other than the technology that you guys are using for this timeline? Is there anything else that's helping you guys other than really the technology?
Well, I think I said on day one is that it's technology that's going to really help us solve this case. But no, I mean, you know, we did do a process of that scene for biological evidence, so we're still hopeful that maybe something will show up there as well.
Arizona Republic, Richard Relas.
Agent Yankee,
yes.
We saw on the scene, I believe it was you, taking a tripod into the home of the sister. How involved was the FBI, if at all, in creating the video? Any advice for the family on what to say to the video?
I would say we use our expertise and provide consultation and advice anytime a family would ask for our advice in a kidnapping. It's ultimately the family's decision of what they put out and any messages they put out. But we were, obviously you're all documenting every move we make. We were there last night in talking with the family. But every decision is theirs.
Right, that was a tripod and a ring light. And Sheriff Donos, you said the blood was found on the porch and on the front stoop. Just wanted to verify that.
I say porch, front stoop. It's all in that same general area by the front door.
Front of the house.
Front door, yes.
What, given her medical condition and the fact that it was her blood, as you say, what would her medical condition do with her recovery if she indeed bled out or was bleeding when she left the house?
Well, again, I've got to be careful for HIPAA, but I would say this. We know she is in need of medication, daily medication. And we also know that this is day 4 or 5 and still we don't know that she's getting her medication. That could in itself prove fatal.
And for the
that'll be the question. For KGUN News, we have Craig Smith or Athena.
I'll get that for you. I'll get it.
Craig?
KGUN, Athena, Craig left.
Okay.
Have you been in communication with anyone who you believe could be the kidnapper?
You know, it goes back to what we talked about. Nobody's eliminated, but we just really don't have enough to say, this is our suspect, this is our guy, we know, or our gal. We just don't know that. And it's really kind of reckless to report that someone is a suspect when they could very well be a victim. It just, I bring to you, to the media, I plead with you to be careful of what it is we put out there, because we don't have anybody here listed as a suspect, and you could actually be doing some damage to the case, but you can do some damage to that individual too. Social media is kind of a.
All right, folks, we're going to take a 2-minute break, and of course, we'll come back to this press conference right after these 2 minutes. We'll see you then. All right, folks, welcome back. Thanks for joining us again. We're going to go back to this press conference updating us on Nancy Guthrie's disappearance.
If we get a lead that there's somebody, hey, you've got this over here or over here, we're going, and that will expand and expand and expand. I think the FBI, with their billboards, they're now planning to put those up at every state around here, at all of our neighboring states. So, yeah, we use you, the national media, the FBI with their national outreach to affect that for us. But as far as the actual investigation, naturally the home, the scene is the primary, and we just keep spreading it out as we get more and more leads.
Court TV, Kobe Thomas.
Hi there, Sheriff. Actually, my question is for Agent Yonke. You know, we saw Savannah Guthrie and her siblings, the family, put out that video last night on Instagram addressing, you know, the tragedy that this is, but also addressing the ransom letter saying they're ready to talk. My question is, did the FBI or any other agency help them craft that message to put out on social media?
Like I said to the previous question, we have an expertise when it comes to kidnappings, and when families want advice, consultation, expertise, we will provide that. But the ultimate decisions on what they say and how they put that out rests with the family itself.
And as far as suspects, I know we haven't identified one, but what type of suspect or suspects do we think we're dealing with here?
At this time, like the sheriff has said, there is no primary suspect identified, so it could run the gamut. So.
KPNX, Troy Hayden.
Are you actively investigating the son-in-law in this case? I know there were reports earlier this week, and you refuted that. You said you haven't eliminated everybody. Have you eliminated him or come close to it, or are you actively looking at him?
We're actively looking at everybody we come across in this case. Everybody. We would be irresponsible if we didn't talk to everybody. The Uber driver, the gardener, the pool person, whoever. Everybody. It's so cliche, but everybody's still a suspect in our eyes. That's just how we look at things and think as cops. Does that mean we have a prime suspect? No, and the family's been very cooperative. They've done everything we've asked of them, and we want that relationship to continue. And sometimes people can be mean out there, and that can really harm us and harm our efforts.
Did you find blood anywhere else in the home besides the porch?
The only DNA evidence we got back is on the porch. We prioritize things and we rush things, and those items we put out to a lab to rush it. And even then, it's 2, 3, 4 days. The other items could take 10 days, 20 days, but we saw the importance of that blood. It came back to Nancy.
So it was only there, it wasn't anywhere else in the house?
I don't know that. We processed the house for biological evidence, and we've not gotten anything back.
Newsmax, Sarah Williamson.
Hi there. My question is just piggybacking off our colleagues here about how far this search has gone. When it comes to doorbell cameras, you say technology plays a critical role in this. Have you been actively door knocking the neighbours and businesses and collecting those doorbell cameras? And is there anything that has come up there, and how far is that stretched?
I can't tell you whether things have come up or not, but we have door-to-door. I think we're still doing door-to-door, not just in that neighborhood, but other neighborhoods. Just as leads come in and take us somewhere, we're going to do those things.
Okay, and just to follow up as well in regards to the video that was released by Nancy Guthrie's children last night, just to clarify, that was not coordinated with any law enforcement beforehand, and that you hadn't seen that video before it was released?
The FBI is handling all things with the ransom.
I think the answer was yes, we were there. The media was there. We can help coordinate, provide that consultation, but that is the family's decision of what they film and what they put out.
Fox 10, Justin Loon.
Agent Yonke, this one's for you. Following up on that video that was released yesterday, you said, ultimately any further action is decided on by the family. Since then, have they expressed any more interest in more efforts to try and get in contact with who is behind the ransom letter? And do you have a crisis or any sort of hostage negotiator with your team for that type of situation if it moves forward?
So the two parts to that question I think it's pretty clear. The family wants to be contacted. They know time is of the essence, and if those that may have Nancy are watching this, the family is ready to talk get proof of life, because there has been no contact after that ransomware note, or ransom note went to the media. For your second question, yes, we have crisis negotiators. That is part of our team here locally, along with the personnel we brought in from Quantico, and they will be part of it, but we're not going to go beyond that of any specifics.
Sheriff Nanos, taking down the crime scene perimeter after Monday's investigation and really opening access to that property to everyone else, was that something you would do differently looking back, knowing that, federal authorities also conducted a search yesterday? Would you have kept that perimeter up, knowing that?
Monday morning quarterback, I probably would have, but I'll say this. We processed the scene. We got what we thought was complete. My team did that. I have to have all the faith and trust in their abilities and their skills, and I think they went through that pretty well. But because another agency now steps in and wants to assist, we're just like with you, we're an open book. Absolutely. How can we help? One of the things people don't see, I heard your question about, and we left and then others could walk up. When we process a scene and we're done, we return that scene to in this case, the homeowners, the family. And we don't just go march back in there. We call the family again and get permissions to go back to the home. So, yeah, there's, again, Monday morning quarterback, absolutely. I probably could have held off on that. We knew that the FBI, we've worked with them before in a lot of cases, and we felt like they could be of help in this with particularly the forensic analysis we use in a number of things. But at the start of this thing, we weren't sure what we had, and as the day progressed, we realized that there could be more to this, and we started in that. Remember, it was a search and rescue mission the first few hours, and we transitioned that over to a criminal investigation. With that, brought in our partners from the FBI and others.
Have you heard from President Trump on the resources? Extra resources?
I was actually going to ask about that. We saw the message yesterday.
Are you next?
Claudia, yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Univision. Following up on that, we saw the message from the president yesterday. Have you personally received any communication from him or the?
No, and I wouldn't expect that. He too is a busy man, right? And I would say this: we thank him for him opening up his entire law enforcement team was put out yesterday, and we know, I know my local reporters here know. We've always worked well with all of our partners in law enforcement. Maybe it's something unique to Southern Arizona and the rest of the country doesn't see that, but this isn't new for us. We've done this. Gabby Giffords, I headed up that investigation many years ago, and we worked side by side. Could not have got things done if we weren't with the FBI on that.
And just the other question, this being a border state, have you guys had any communication with Mexican authorities?
I have not. I work closely with the Mexican consulate, as other consulates, being the sheriff, but no, I've not heard from them.
Arizona Univision, Madrid. Here.
Hi, Sheriff. My question is, do you know, it's a two-part question, do you know what medication Nancy uses? And have you checked the local pharmacies and pharmacies around the state where they bought, per se, this medication to keep her alive, to keep her healthy, while still look for her?
So we do know what medications, and we have contacted pharmacies. Probably need to go back to just make sure that they didn't, maybe we contacted them early on. I know that night, Sunday night, Saturday night, Sunday morning, I know we were doing all the hospital checks, and that check was continuous every hour, going back out. And physically in person, deputies were going to each local area hospital and asking them to check their logs.
My second question here is, I know you're looking for her in Pima County. Are you looking for her across the state now? And if so, if there's a particular area that you're focusing on right now?
Well, we're looking for her everywhere, right? The FBI just made an arrest on a tip that we got that we thought there could be something here. There's it's statewide. The billboards are going to be out there across the country. We take leads from everywhere, and where those leads take us, we'll get there.
MS Now, Alex Talbot.
Agent Yankee, do you have any reason to believe that Nancy Guthrie may be being held outside of the country? Is that something that you ruled out at this point?
We don't have any of that information. We haven't ruled anything out. Like the sheriff said, we will follow the facts wherever they take us, whether it is outside of the state of Arizona or over the border. We will follow the facts and go there, but we have no indication anything over the Mexican border.
And you mentioned on the ransom note there were details about the Apple Watch and the floodlight.
Yep.
The ransom notes that were sent out to TMZ, KGUN, and KOLD, are they all the same ransom note? Do they contain the same details in each of those individual ransom notes?
The ones that I am tracking and aware of were the same that went to TMZ also.
News Nation, Brian Enton.
Agent Yankee, sorry, over here.
Yes.
When did the first ransom note arrive? And the reason I ask is because the Apple Watch has been in the news and on social media, and you could see like floodlights on video. So was it before those things were out in the world?
I don't have the specific time frame as I sit here today of what time it came in, but that you are right. Anyone could see a floodlight hanging down, could have seen some of those things. The watch has been talked about, so that timing is tricky, but that's why we're taking it serious no matter what and following the leads on that. But I don't have the time frame that the first note came in as I sit here today. Thank you.
And my follow-up is for the sheriff. In the house, were there any signs that someone tried to clean up or maybe destroy evidence?
I can't talk about the crime scene, so I'll give you another shot, another question.
My other question is, I heard the agents say that it was a joint investigation now. At the other press conference, the FBI said they were assisting. Is it joint now? I mean, are both agencies in charge now?
Look, there's no ego here. We in this part of the country, we'll take anybody's help. It's not about, it's not about who's in charge. From day one, when we contacted the FBI, they were that gracious to say, whatever you need, whatever you need. And so that's really it. And they're great partners, just as my other local law enforcement brethren. I didn't even have to ask. That's what's really amazing. I haven't had to call anybody. They've called me. Sheriff, what do you need?
Arizona's family, Brianna Whitney.
Hey, Sheriff. I know you had the crime scene process. You said you went back out there. Your partners wanted to see it. But you guys were actively taking out evidence yesterday. Was there something you missed the first time, or did you get a new piece of information that led you to believe you needed to go back out and take more than you had that first day?
You know, I know that we get information that will come, and this is just any crime scene that we look at. We may go out to a crime scene and think we've got it all, go analyze the evidence, and something comes back and says, hey, did you check this? We're not going to just say, oops, and not go.
So does that
Absolutely.
come in?
In this instance, it really was the FBI just wanted to go, hey, can we take a look at it?
Are you worried about that being contaminated at all because there was people in that?
You know, I'll let the courts worry about that. We will certainly be open to the courts of anything that's been removed from that house, and we follow the rules of laws. We get court orders and go back and reapply for another warrant if need be. All of those things we're very careful of.
Arizona Public Media, Lynn Boyd.
Ellen Boyd over here. In that news release yesterday, there was a report of a trespasser. Has the Guthrie family dealt with any incidents, threats, whether that's trespassing, social media threats, anything of that nature?
I am not aware of any of that. I know that we, as with any case, again, we would look at all of the background of calls to those families or their residents and see if there's anything there, or even in that neighborhood. Those things have been looked at. I don't know of anything that was reported in even the last 30 days or 6 days. Nobody's come to me and said, hey, next door you had a burglary.
Follow up for the neighborhood where Nancy's home is. Can you give any more details on that trespassing incident?
I don't have them.
Telemundo, Jesus Gonzalez.
It's for the FBI. I just have a question. Can we confirm if the FBI director is coming for the investigation?
Yes, Director Patel is being briefed several times a day on this investigation back in D.C. He does have a trip scheduled to Tucson that was pre-scheduled before this, but he is receiving consistent and constant updates from our team here.
is coming today?
He is not coming today.
And before you go to the next one, I know you may have had a follow-up question, but I think I overstepped you. So if you wanted to ask,
thank you.
I'll give you that opportunity.
Thank you, I really appreciate that.
Thank you, sir. Absolutely.
Thank you. At what point do you deem the ransom note not credible if there is no communication that follows up since you received it? Like, what's that timeline where you say, no proof of life, there's no more, this isn't credible?
I think we start to look at what the deadlines were in the note. First, I think was 5 o'clock today, and then it had a second deadline after that. So we are continuing in a normal kidnapping case. There would be contact by now, trying to discuss that. But those are the time frames we are looking at as we move forward.
Are you able to say that second deadline that was given?
I don't have that with me right now. So.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Entertainment Tonight, Denny Directo.
Yes, my question actually is for Agent Yankee. There was a report that said the ransom came from an email that the FBI was actually looking into that IP address. Any update on that?
Nothing that I can release. Thank you.
And then also, there's also conflicting reports about who was the last person to actually see Nancy and drive her home. We know she took an Uber to Annie's house, but can you confirm whether it was Annie or her son-in-law Tommaso who took her home that night?
I think the timeline that the sheriff provided was a family member, but
just family. We're going to go with family. Okay.
Record TV, Vandry Piera.
Sheriff, we are for national, so we're not familiar with the area, so since that is a remote area. So my question is, why is it so hard to track a car or something suspicious that have passed through the area at that night? How difficult it is, because probably cameras around or something.
Yeah, you're talking about the challenges we face in some of being in a rural area like this. Those are challenges we face all the. We'd love it to have all the cameras in what we would consider a more urban nature type area. But once you get out into the community, that's not the only part of Tucson that is that way. And we just find ways to overcome those challenges. We don't just disregard it. We still look at ways to find, for example, ring cameras that might catch just a piece of something goes by, it doesn't catch the whole car, those kinds of things. We don't give up, we still go out.
But not at least a car that came out at that night?
I can't.
Ways, like miles from the house.
We have cameras all over, and those things are being reviewed.
Arizona Republic, Richard Reles.
Oh, I'm a different person, let's pretend.
Did he get two?
It's a second.
Sorry. All right. Thank you guys for keeping us honest. No, you already asked your question, so we're going to go to the New York Times. And I apologize for getting your name wrong here, Reese. Thibault?
No, you're close.
Thibault.
Hi, Sheriff.
Hi.
The 212, the camera that detected movement at 212, was that a different camera than the one that was disconnected at 147, and where was it pointed?
We don't know that. We don't know which camera that was. When we did the software, it just told us that the person was detected, but I'm unaware of which camera that was.
So there were multiple cameras and you're not sure?
Sure, there were multiple cameras at the home.
Okay, and is there a possibility that this is not a ransom situation, and if so, what else could it be?
Your guess is as good as mine. I would say absolutely there's a possibility that this is nothing to do with a kidnapping. But we cover all angles. We're not going to dismiss something until we actually know for a fact that it's one way or the other.
People Magazine, we have Danielle Walker.
So I wanted a little more clarity to follow up on his. Is there anything more you can say? Was this actually targeted or not? Do you have any?
That's why we have the FBI to look at those areas where there may have been a target. Maybe it is a kidnapping. But no, we don't have anything to rule that out or to say it is.
And as far as the ransom notes, there was a part in there about Bitcoin. Are you looking into that now, investigating?
Yes, that's part of the investigation.
Can you go and elaborate any further if you found anything, or if there's any tie or any suspects tied to that Bitcoin?
There is not at this time.
Associated Press, Joe Goldendera.
Hi, Sheriff. Just to follow up to a
You're
prior...
Joe?
I'm sorry?
You're Joe?
Goldendera.
Oh, I thought you said Joe. Okay.
Just to follow up to a prior question, you had said early in the investigation that authorities don't believe Nancy Guthrie was targeted. Why don't authorities think that Nancy Guthrie was targeted?
Who said that who said they didn't
You had
think
said that early in the investigation.
Boy, if I said I absolutely misspoke. I've never thought she was or wasn't targeted. We've always believed that is certainly a possibility. I mean, you'd be silly not to think that. Somebody disappears in the middle of the night out of their home. You can understand where I'm coming from. But no, if I said that, obviously I misspoke or maybe somebody misheard me. But I've never believed that she was or was not a target.
Is there anything more specific you can say about what you believe the motive to be for this kidnapping at this time?
Motive's always going to be a question, and we'll know more as we go what that motive is. But right now, my guesswork is as good as yours.
And then we also have the final one will be from KBOA here in Tucson, Monica Garcia.
Okay, so let's talk about that 5 p.m. Did you say 5 p.m. deadline today? Is that the deadline? Oh, maybe that's for the FBI. Can you just give us some sound on that? Because that's a big deal. That's within hours about that 5 p.m. deadline per the ransom note. And then what's supposed to happen after that?
So the ransom note that was distributed to the media did make a demand for 5 p.m. today, and if a transfer wasn't made, then I think a second demand was for next Monday. We're not going to go beyond that, but that was the ransom note the media received.
Did it indicate what would happen if they didn't meet that ransom? Did they?
We're not going to go into those specifics.
Okay.
Thank you.
5 p.m. Eastern? I'm sorry, I know it's not Arizona. Just 5 p.m.
I don't.
Just 5 p.m.
Just
And
5
then,
p.m.
sorry about that, Inside Edition, Jim Murray.
Special Agent Yankee, given the fact that the FBI participated in the creation of this family video, does that suggest your belief that the author or authors of that ransom note, in fact, have Nancy Guthrie?
Again, we're taking the ransom note serious, and we are following that part of the investigation.
And does the fact that there is a ransom note suggest to you that Nancy Guthrie was taken specifically because she's Savannah's mom?
There's nothing to indicate that.
Thank you guys so much for all of your questions.
Thank you.
Sheriff does have one more note about what happens next year, or what doesn't happen next.
Well, it's what happens for us is we're going to continue working. For you, though, I hope this worked out well for you, but right now I have no plans to schedule any further press conferences unless we have some real evidence or something to bring up to you. It's pretty pointless to just keep hounding the same things over and over. And as Special Agent in Charge Yankee said, please give us some space, and that's not just physical space. Give us some space, give my team some time, because these things do take time, and they are difficult. And everybody out there is really working hard. And mistakes are going to be made, and if I made them, mea culpa. It won't be the first mistake I've ever made, but more important than me is we want Nancy back. That's the key. Okay? So thank you very much, and thank you for your concern in this.
Thank you. Thank you.
If you're looking for the other person that was up here, it was John Edwards, Jon-Ed.
All right, guys, we're going to take another 2-minute break. We'll come back with more news here on WCNC Plus. See you then. All right, we are back just like that, guys. We're going to go to the White House press briefing with Carolyn Levitt.
We have a very packed room here today. Thank you all so much for showing up and for joining. I apologize for the delay. The president and I were watching the press conference about the search for Savannah Guthrie's mother, which is just a heartbreaking situation. The president, as you all know, spoke directly with Savannah yesterday and told her that the federal government is here to help. Any requests that are made by state and local officials in the search of Miss Guthrie will absolutely be accommodated. I spoke with the FBI directly about that today as well, and our hearts and our prayers are with Savannah and her entire family as they search for her dear mother. I also have a quick scheduling announcement for all of you. Tonight at 7 p.m. during prime time, President Trump, Dr. Oz, and National Design Studio Director Joe Gebbia will officially unveil Trump RX, a state-of-the-art website for American consumers to purchase low-cost prescription drugs. This historic announcement will save millions of Americans their hard-earned money, so make sure to tune in tonight, and we will see all of you in the news media there. President Trump promised to restore law and order to the United States of America, and newly released data proves he is delivering overwhelmingly on this promise. A study from the Council on Criminal Justice shows that the murder rate across America's largest cities plummeted in 2025 to its lowest level since at least 1900. Again, let me repeat, to put this in perspective, this marks the largest single-year drop in murders in recorded history. This dramatic decline is what happens when a president secures the border, fully mobilizes federal law enforcement to arrest violent criminals, and aggressively deports the worst of the worst illegal aliens from our country. The numbers don't lie. Under President Trump in 2025, the FBI increased violent crime arrests by 100% compared to the prior year. The FBI also conducted more than 67,000 arrests from Inauguration Day 2025 to January 20th, 2026, which is 197% more arrests than the same period previously. The FBI also disrupted 1,800 gangs and criminal enterprises, a 210% increase from the year prior. The FBI has arrested 1,700 child predators and more than 300 human traffickers across the country. Since President Trump took office, 6 of the FBI's top 10 most wanted fugitives have been captured. Right here in our nation's capital, where you all live, so you know it well, whether you choose to report it or not, the president's efforts to make D.C. safe and beautiful have worked. As of last week, D.C. homicides were down 62%, motor vehicle theft down 53%, and 2025 had the fewest violent gun crimes of any year of available data in our nation's capital. For more proof that these tough-on-crime efforts are working, look at the president's Make Memphis Safe Again campaign. As of last week, there have been nearly 5,600 arrests made, and aggravated assaults are down 53%. Sexual assaults are down 53%, and robberies are down 70%. Again, that's just in the city of Memphis. 5,600 arrests have taken place because of this president and his Homeland Security Task Force that has surged into Memphis at the request of both the governor and the mayor in that city. A Democrat mayor, I will add. These are the results that can happen when Democrats and Republicans, when the federal government and state and local officials work together. And that's what Trump wants to see to improve public safety across our country. When you have a leader like President Trump who empowers good cops to be cops and to arrest bad criminals, American communities will become safer. Many of the media outlets in this room have expressed shock and confusion at these remarkable statistics. The New York Times declared that, quote, "No one knows for sure what's behind the staggering drop in the murder rate. The reason is very clear. It is President Trump's leadership and his unwavering commitment to law and order. The drop in crime is more proof that all that is required to improve public safety on our streets is a leader with the will to do what is necessary to protect law-abiding American citizens. The terror and chaos that was unleashed under Democrat rule is a choice. It's a choice to put violent criminals ahead of innocent Americans, a choice to force us all to live in fear because of soft-on-crime liberal politicians, prosecutors, and judges who lack the basic willingness to do their jobs and put dangerous people behind bars. On November 5th, 2024, the American people made a resounding choice that they've had enough of that, and that's precisely why they re-elected President Trump. So even as Democrats and the liberal media are engaged in hysteria about this administration arresting and deporting violent, criminal, illegal aliens, the undeniable truth is that deporting these individuals is one of the primary reasons why America's streets are safer today than they were 1 year ago when President Trump assumed office. Former President Biden and the Democrats left our borders wide open, and President Trump and the brave men and women of ICE are removing these dangerous criminals. So here are just a few recent examples. Number one, a Venezuelan national and active Tren de Aragua gang member with a rap sheet including homicide, assault, child cruelty, domestic violence, and property damage. This is an individual I can assure you not a single one of you in this room would want in your neighborhood, whether you admit it or not. He entered the U.S. in 2022, and he was released into our country by the Biden administration. He is no longer here, thanks to President Trump. An El Salvadorian national and known MS-13 associate, previously convicted of homicide, conspiracy to commit homicide, and kidnapping, arrested for arson, battery, armed carjacking, and assault. He entered illegally in 2016, was released by the Obama administration, and ICE just arrested him on January 8th, 2026. This example shows you how many criminal illegal aliens have been roaming American streets freely because of a lack of attention to this matter from the previous administration, and President Trump is cleaning up their mess. A Cuban national and blood gangs member convicted of multiple homicides and robbery. ICE arrested him on October 27th and removed him on January 6th, 2026. Arresting and deporting these types of illegal criminals is precisely what the American people voted for. And despite desperate recent attempts by Democrats and those in the media to undermine the president's deportation agenda, these efforts are failing. Brand new Harvard-Harris polling shows overwhelming support for President Trump's efforts to protect law-abiding citizens from criminal illegal aliens. Nearly 8 in 10 Americans say criminal illegal aliens should be deported. A solid majority also support deporting all illegal aliens, regardless of additional crimes. And more than 2 in 3 Americans back the Trump administration's common sense requirement that state and local officials cooperate with federal authorities and work to hand over criminal illegal aliens in local jails for swift deportation. Finally, to prevent another invasion of millions of illegal aliens from happening again, President Trump and Secretary Noem delivered the most secure border in American history. 0 illegal aliens were released into our homeland over the past 9 months. This is a truly remarkable achievement. Again, 0 illegal aliens released into the country in 9 months. This is staggering, and it deserves more attention from all of you. Overall, Customs and Border Protection recorded the lowest total encounters in agency history. Daily encounters have fallen by 95%, averaging just 250 apprehensions at the southern border a day. This is compared to over 5,100 daily apprehensions during the Biden years. It's a night and day difference because we finally have a president who enforces the law and lets our law enforcement do their noble jobs of protecting our homeland. When President Trump campaigned on making America safe again, this is exactly what he meant, and the numbers and the results speak for themselves. With that, I will open it up to questions today. We're going to start with Daniel Baldwin from One America News, who is here religiously covering the White House beat every day, so it's good to see you in a chair instead of standing up today. Daniel, thanks for being here, and why don't you kick us off?
Thank you, Caroline. It's an honor and a privilege to represent One America News in the new media seat. First question on that DHS funding bill. Funding runs out in the better part of 8 days or so. Democrats, at least verbally, are very dug in. What does the White House believe their end goal is when it comes to this funding fight, when it comes to to immigration policy at large? What is their end goal when they're dug in a position like this at this point in time?
Well, the president has two end goals. One is to obviously keep the government funded and open, and that includes the Department of Homeland Security, which does not just touch upon ICE and Border Patrol, but also FEMA, the United States Coast Guard, the United States Secret Service. These are brave public servants who work to protect our homeland. The president wants these individuals to get paid. Secondly, when it comes to any discussions about immigration policy, the president is never going to waver in his commitment to allow immigration enforcement efforts in this country and to support ICE and Border Patrol and the deportation of illegal alien criminals. I know Senator Schumer and Leader Jeffries sent over a very long list of demands, some of which the administration is willing to discuss. Others don't seem like they are grounded in any common sense, and they are non-starters for this administration. But we're not going to negotiate policy from the podium. I'm going to allow the president to do that, and any final decisions that are made will be made ultimately by him. But rest assured, he is never going to allow law enforcement in the jobs that they do, the important jobs that they do, to be undermined.
And secondly, Caroline, the Department of Homeland Security put out a tweet about a part of an hour ago alleging that an illegal alien was involved in a major car wreck in Indiana, killing 4 people, and they allege that the suspect in question came in under the CBP-1 app under the Biden administration and received a commercial driver's license from the state of Pennsylvania. What is the White House's reaction to a situation like this, and what is the White House doing to crack down on cases like this where illegal aliens are obtaining commercial driver's licenses?
Yes, this is another abhorrent example of the border crisis over the past 4 years, and it again exemplifies why the administration must continue and will always continue to fully back and support ICE and Border Patrol and law enforcement in their removal of illegal alien criminals from our country. For those who don't know, and all of you should report on it, 4 Americans were tragically killed and lost their lives this week yet again from an illegal alien, an individual who was paroled into the country by the Biden administration using the CBP-1 app, which they created like it was a magic pass for Disneyland. That's not how immigration in this country should work. And this illegal alien from Kyrgyzstan was traveling on an Indiana highway, and he failed to brake for a slowed semi-truck in front of him. He swerved into the lane and he crashed into a van carrying 15 passengers, and 4 people were killed in that crash. This is another tragedy that could have been prevented if not for the wide open borders from the previous administration. That's why we now have a secure border. That's why this administration will continue to deport illegal aliens from our country. Thank you for being here. Garrett.
John, thank you for your comments and your prayers for the Guthrie family. I have 2 questions related to the president's interview with NBC yesterday.
Sure.
At one point in the interview, the president said that he believes states are accumulating the votes for who wins the election. He says if they, meaning the states, can't do it honestly and can't be done properly and timely, then something else has to happen. What did he mean by that? Is he suggesting that the federal government count votes in elections?
What the president is suggesting, and I just spoke to him about this, is that Republicans and Democrats in Congress should pass the Save America Act. This piece of legislation is going to ensure that states are abiding by federal election law by removing non-citizens from their voter rolls. In addition, the Save America Act will require voter ID to vote, and it will require proof of citizenship to register to vote. These are very common sense policies and proposals that 89% of our country agree with. So that's what the president is talking about. Again, I just spoke with him about this, and he's calling on both Republicans and Democrats to send the Save America Act, to pass it into law and to send it to his desk as quickly as possible.
To be clear, the SAVE Act doesn't say anything about who counts votes, which has always been a state, a local, a county function. Why does he keep talking about somebody else, presumably the federal government, counting votes?
Because the SAVE Act directs states to remove non-citizens from their voter rolls, and we know in states across the country, the president is right to point this out, in states like California or in places like New York City, non-citizens are allowed to vote in state and local elections, and the federal government should absolutely do away with that. I don't think a single person in this room, if you really are being honest with yourselves, should agree that non-citizens should vote in American elections, no matter where that election is up and down the ticket. And so this is a piece of federal legislation that will help states ensure the integrity and the sanctity of their elections, and that's what the president wants. Peter.
Thanks, Caroline. President Trump posted about Nancy Guthrie that he is directing all federal law enforcement to be at the families and local law enforcement's complete disposal immediately. What should we expect to see from the federal government in coming days in the search to find Nancy Guthrie?
It's a very good question, Peter, and it's why I was on the phone with the FBI earlier this morning to ask that. And what they told me is that the FBI, again, is at the disposal of the state and local government. Whatever personnel or assets or resources that the state and local authorities and police need will be granted to them at the direction of the President, the FBI Director, and the Attorney General.
A different law enforcement issue. The FBI just found 1,000 samples inside an illegal biolab in Las Vegas. It is linked to a different biolab that was previously raided. There are ties to China. What does the President think the CCP might be up to here?
I haven't spoken to him about this specific investigation from the FBI, but I'm happy to, and I'm sure he's very glad that this is something the FBI discovered, and we'll make sure anyone who is involved in illegal activity will be held accountable.
And just one more about this weekend. At the Mar-a-Lago Super Bowl party, after the first 2 quarters, are the TVs going to be on the halftime show with Bad Bunny or the halftime show with Kid Rock?
I think the President would much prefer a Kid Rock performance over Bad Bunny, I must say that. Jennifer.
On the nuclear arms pact, we saw the President's post on that.
Yes.
But can you say, is there a temporary agreement with Russia to stand by the terms of the New START treaty while negotiations are happening?
Not to my knowledge. Again, to your point, Jennifer, I just do want to reiterate exactly what the President said. He wrote just moments ago, the United States is the most powerful country in the world. I completely rebuilt its military in my first term, including new and many refurbished nuclear weapons. I also added Space Force and now continue to rebuild our military at levels never seen before. We are even adding battleships, which are 100 times more powerful than the ones that roamed the seas during World War II. The Iowa, Missouri, Alabama, and others. I have stopped nuclear wars from breaking out across the world between Pakistan and India, Iran and Israel, and Russia and Ukraine, rather than extend New START, a badly negotiated deal by the United States, which I will add was renegotiated under former President Barack Obama, aside from everything else, is being grossly violated. The President wants to have our nuclear experts work on a new, improved, and modernized treaty that can last long into the future, and that's what the United States will continue to discuss with the Russians.
Peter. Thank you, Caroline. Sure. Did President Trump himself ever ask DNI Gabbard to head down to Fulton County, Georgia?
The President was asked and answered that question just yesterday. I've seen a lot of the media in this room get very caught up with the semantics of why Tulsi Gabbard is there. I will tell you why, and the President agrees with this, because election security is essential to national security. And as the Director of National Intelligence, it is a part of Ms. Gabbard's role to make sure that American elections are free of foreign interference and that American elections are safe and secure. And so the ODNI Director is working with the FBI on this effort, and the President wholeheartedly supports both Kash Patel and Tulsi Gabbard in ensuring that American elections are safe, are secure, and are free of foreign intervention.
Is there any indication that there's foreign influence?
Federal law enforcement's involvement in the search.
Excuse me one second. It's the media who has said that there's Russian interference in American elections. You guys have been saying that for many, many years. So the people, well, the people in this room, considering that you all said for many years that Russia interfered in the 2016 election to help Donald Trump, you should all be very happy that we finally have an administration that is looking into that, and we'll be happy to keep you posted. Michael.
Thanks, Caroline. With the FBI's involvement in the search for Nancy Guthrie now, has this search expanded nationwide outside of Arizona? And given Pima County's proximity to Mexico, is this now an international search?
Well, Michael, that would be a question for state and local authorities as they continue to oversee the investigation at this time. Again, the federal government and the FBI have offered any and all resources, but the state and local authorities are still leading the investigation, so I would direct you to them. I'm certainly not in a position to talk about it.
One other question, Caroline.
Sure.
Friday's talks with Iran, they were originally supposed to take place in Turkey. They've now been moved to Oman. Can you tell us the reason for that move?
Look, the President, diplomacy is always his first option when it comes to dealing with countries all around the world, whether it's our allies or our adversaries. And so Special Envoy Witkoff and Jared Kushner will be traveling to Oman for those talks tomorrow, and we will see what comes of those. The President is standing by for an update from them.
Caroline.
Sure, in the pink.
Thank you, Caroline. Cuban leader Miguel Diaz-Canel said today that Cuba would be willing to engage in dialogue with the United States only without pressure, without preconditions, on equal footing and with respect for sovereignty. But his government is denying what President Trump said, that they are already holding talks. How would you respond to that?
I think the fact that the Cuban government is on its last leg and its country is about to collapse, they should be wise in their statements directed towards the President of the United States. But as I just reiterated, the President is always willing to engage in diplomacy, and I believe that's something that is taking place, in fact, with the Cuban government.
Yeah, thank you, Caroline. So the Office of Personnel Management released a final rule today that makes it easier to fire government employees who are not doing their job, basically. Does the President believe that there are people in his government still that are not following his agenda?
That's a good question. I have not asked him about that. I mean, look, it's a very big government, right? There are thousands of people who work for the federal government here in Washington, D.C. This administration has been very much focused on ensuring that we have an efficient and productive workforce for the American taxpayer. There's not a day that goes by where we don't show up and realize we are public servants working on behalf of the American people, and everybody in the federal government best have that mindset, or they won't be welcome to work for this administration. So I think it's a good thing that the Office of Personnel Management put this rule out. I think if people aren't doing their jobs, if they aren't showing up for work, if they're not working hard on behalf of this president, they're not welcome to work for him at all.
The New York City mayor is dealing with a $12 billion budget deficit. If he texted President Trump, would the president bail him out?
I'll leave that answer to the president himself, Ed. Kristen, go ahead.
One more follow-up on Deanna Gabbard. You've said that the president supports the fact that she was there, but last night when he was asked about it, he said he didn't know why she was there. He didn't say that he directed her. Can you clarify on that? Did she go by herself and he learned later and supports it?
Well, did you look at the full entirety of his response? I was in the room for that NBC interview, Kristen, and he just said exactly what I told you, which is that election security is essential to national security. We need to ensure that our elections are free and are fair and are free of foreign interference, and he spoke about how Ms. Tulsi Gabbard is involved in that effort. So you're taking like the first 3 words that he said to one question and not looking at his entire response.
Follow up on what you said about foreign interference. You talked about 2016 and Russian interference, but what we've learned from these Georgia officials is what was seized by the FBI were ballots from 2020 in this Fulton County election center. Do you have any evidence that there was international interference in the 2020 election in this election center?
What I do have evidence of, and what the media seems to be undermining, is why Tulsi Gabbard is there in the first place. And I would point you again to federal law that clearly assigns the DNI and the office with the statutory responsibility to lead counter intel matters related to election security. This includes assessing risks to election voting systems, software, voter registration databases, and more, and analyzing foreign interference. And the ODNI is responsible for supporting the White House interagency action to secure our elections through intel analysis and vulnerability assessments. And they should be routinely collaborating with agencies like the DHS, the DOJ, and the FBI. So as for that question, it would be better suited to ask the Director of National Intelligence herself in her office. But what I'm telling you is that it is more than appropriate. In fact, it is Tulsi Gabbard's job to ensure that our elections are safe and secure. And that's exactly what she's been doing on the ground in Georgia. And I don't understand why anyone in this room, considering you're all American citizens, I believe, and like to vote in our nation's elections, should have any problem with that whatsoever. Now,
thank you, Caroline. The president said that the administration should take a softer approach on immigration enforcement. He's also suggested for months that some migrant workers should be spared from these raids based on what they're doing. Is the administration going to continue to conduct large worksite raids as it seeks to target violent criminals? And can you clarify, is the federal government going to continue doing these deportation operations in blue cities where authorities say they don't want them?
Well, first, again, to the president's answer yesterday, the full context of his answer was that he'd like to see a softer touch, but we are always going to remain tough. That softer touch the president is referring to is that cooperation that is necessary between state and local authorities and federal government authorities to ensure that we can continue deporting illegal aliens from our communities without tons of agents having to go after one illegal alien. If the states and the local governments just turn over their illegal aliens to ICE at jails, as they should be doing, it requires one agent to deport that one illegal alien who can then go on their way to their home country in a peaceful manner. The escalation that we've seen take place in Minnesota is a direct result of the refusal of state and local officials to cooperate with the federal government and with ICE, which has led to these hostile and dangerous environments. And so we don't want that. Again, the president wants direct cooperation, and that's what he was referring to. As for worksite raids, I don't broadcast any future action that may or may not happen from the Department of Homeland Security, but again, the president's focus and the administration's focus is on targeting illegal alien criminals, especially those who have committed heinous crimes in our country, as evidenced by the few illegal aliens that I just shared with you here today.
Will ICE and Border Patrol avoid going to other blue cities where the local officials are saying, we won't work with you, we don't want you here?
Well, first of all, those local officials should be wanting to work with ICE. Why would any official, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, want murderers and predators in your city? It makes zero sense. It's an untenable position. The only reason Democrats are taking that position now is because their entire party platform is just anti-Trump. It makes no sense for the American people. They should be calling this White House, they should be calling Secretary Noem, they should be calling Tom Homan, and they should be saying, we want to work with you to remove the worst of the worst criminals from our city. Please come here. So yes, ICE is going to continue to do their job in cities and communities across the country, but it certainly makes it much easier when we have that level of cooperation and corroboration at the state and local level. In places like Florida, where there has been the arrest of thousands, tens of thousands of illegal alien criminals. None of you talk about that, or none of you hear about that, because these operations are going seamlessly and peacefully. Why? Because there is an intimate cooperation between the state government and the federal government, and that's what the president wants to see in all 50 states. In the Whites, yes.
Hi, thank you, Caroline. Over the weekend, President Trump said that he was giving a serious look at endorsing in the Texas Republican Senate primary. We know that Minnesota and Georgia also have competitive, crowded primaries. Is he giving those races a serious look as well?
Well, I'm not allowed to speak from the podium on any future political endorsements the president may or may not make, but I know that he is watching all of these races across the country quite carefully. I won't get ahead of him on any potential endorsements. John.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. Two questions for you about the continuing resolution that the president signed for the Department of Homeland Security. What would be the repercussions for all of the agencies under DHS if no agreement is reached on funding when that deadline approaches next Friday?
Well, there will be grave repercussions for all of those agencies, but more importantly, frankly, for the American people who those agencies serve. And that's exactly what the president and the White House want to avoid. Again, we want to keep the government funded. We want the Department of Homeland Security, of course, to be up and operationalized and continuing as necessary to protect our homeland, to secure our border, to ensure the brave men and women of the United States Coast Guard are getting paid, the brave men and women of the United States Secret Service who protect the president, the vice president, and frankly all of you in this building every day continue to receive the paychecks that they so well deserve. And so that's why the White House will engage in these talks with Democrats. But again, the president is never going to cave on this administration's core promise to deport illegal aliens from our country.
You said, Caroline, in your statement that there are certain proposals that Democrats are putting up that are non-starters. What are some of those non-starters?
There are a few, and it's a very good question, but I won't negotiate from the podium. I know the White House will be engaged in direct, serious talks with Democrats on this important matter. Natalie.
Thank you. In addition to launching Trump RX tonight, Trump has said that he wants to meet with insurance companies to lower healthcare costs. Do you have any update on when those meetings?
Yes, he does want to meet with insurance companies. That meeting will take place. I don't have an update on when it will be on the schedule, but the purpose of that meeting will be to continue to negotiate with these companies to ensure that more money is going back to the American consumer, and you're all going to see that on full display tonight. at 7 o'clock with the formal launch of Trump RX. I'm telling you, this is going to be a very cool and unique event, so everybody really should tune in.
Can you clarify what the president said on the Diego Garcia deal? He said he didn't like it, now again he says he's for it.
He spoke with Prime Minister Starmer directly. He understands Prime Minister Starmer's position, and he supports it. But as the president reiterated in that statement, of course, the United States reserves the right to protect our assets. We still have a military base, of course, on the island of Diego Garcia, and so the president reiterated to the Prime Minister and to all of you that the United States will never waver, if necessary, in protecting our assets anywhere in the world, but including on Diego Garcia, and he supports the Prime Minister's decision. Elizabeth.
Just on that one, Caroline, can I ask you...
said that he's now seeking...
John, I'll go to you after.
Thank you.
The president said he's now seeking $1 billion from Harvard, considerably more than before. What changed here, and how are negotiations going?
Well, look, this has been an ongoing negotiation and, frankly, a frustrating negotiation for the president and the administration because we want a deal. And it's very unfortunate that Harvard has dragged its feet in understanding they need to rectify the wrongs and the illegal behavior that took place on their campus over the course of the past several years under the previous administration. And so the president wants a justified deal to correct for that criminal behavior that took place on their campus. He is now demanding $1 billion from Harvard University, and Secretary McMahon will be continuing to lead this negotiation and these talks. John.
Caroline, thank you. You mentioned some polling earlier that was very compelling on deportations. Rasmussen came out with a poll today, said 75% of Republicans want all illegals deported. It seems like the conversation has shifted again to focusing only on deporting illegal aliens who are criminals. Is the president still committed to deportations of the 20 million illegals that came here under Joe Biden, or are you starting to see that back?
Yes, and the president has always been committed to that, John, but we must prioritize, and the prioritization is on those tens of thousands of convicted criminals whom we know are still roaming our streets. ICE and Border Patrol and DHS have done a phenomenal job of removing tens of thousands of them. Actually, nearly 1 million people have been deported from our country over the past year, 2 million additional self-deportations, so nearly 3 million people have left the United States. But again, as you pointed out rightfully, Joe Biden and the Democrats allowed approximately 20 million people into our country illegally. So yes, of course, the president is committed to ensuring that America is...
Hey everyone, I'm going to take another 2-minute break. We'll come back to join this press briefing at the White House once again. All right, welcome back, everyone. We're going to go back to the White House for the last couple of minutes of this press briefing.
said, quote, "We're going to have ICE surround the polls come November." Is that something that the president is considering?
That's not something I've ever heard the president consider,
So
no.
you can guarantee to the American public that ICE will not be around polling locations or voting locations in November?
I can't guarantee that an ICE agent won't be around a polling location in November. I mean, that's frankly a very silly hypothetical question, but what I can tell you is I haven't heard the president discuss any formal plans to put ICE outside of polling locations. It's a disingenuous question.
Caroline, I had two questions regarding the DHS. The first one is, one of the Democrats' main demands for DHS funding was to demask ICE agents. Is this something that the president is even considering?
Again, this is one of the specific points in the letter that went out by Senate Majority Leader Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. I won't negotiate the individual points from the podium, but it is obviously something the White House will be discussing with lawmakers on Capitol Hill in the coming days.
Is the administration concerned that the shakeup that we're seeing of DHS activity in Minneapolis could potentially embolden different obstructionist protesters around the country, as they now have a playbook on how to get ICE out of their cities?
No, because what you saw yesterday with the drawdown of 700 agents only occurred because the condition that the President of the United States set for local states, local counties to turn over illegal aliens to ICE has been met. The vast majority of counties, nearly every single county now in Minnesota, has made an agreement to notify ICE when they are releasing an illegal criminal from their jail. This is a huge win for the administration. Again, it's a condition the president set out and has been met thanks to the tireless efforts of Mr. Homan. And as for the left-wing agitators who have been illegally obstructing ICE's immigration efforts, we are not letting that behavior go unnoticed or unpunished. In fact, just today, the Department of Homeland Security arrested this individual. He is a self-proclaimed Antifa member who has been threatening, doxing, harassing ICE. He called for the murder of federal law enforcement officers. He encouraged bloodshed in the streets of Minnesota. He proudly acclaimed affiliation with the domestic terrorist organization Antifa. And the Department of Justice, thanks to the great work of HSI and the FBI, was able to locate and arrest this individual today. So we are committed to enforcing our immigration laws. We want that level of cooperation from state and local officials. And if people are illegally obstructing our federal law enforcement operations, if they are targeting, doxing, harassing, and vilifying ICE agents, they are going to be held accountable, like this individual here, who again is a self-proclaimed member of Antifa. He is a domestic terrorist, and he will be held accountable in the United States.
Caroline, just to follow up on Garrett's earlier question, I mean, you've talked a lot about the SAVE Act. I know you spoke with the president about it before you came out here. The president has gone beyond that, though. He's talking about Republicans taking over elections, states are agents of the federal government. So just to be clear, is the president only calling on Congress to pass the SAVE Act, or does he want Republicans to go further than that before the midterm elections?
The president is calling on Republicans, again, and Democrats to pass the SAVE Act. I will reiterate, requirement for voter ID to vote. That should be something that no American should oppose. In fact, we know that the vast majority of Americans support it. Requiring proof of citizenship to register to vote, which is not hard to do. We should be able to do that in this country. If you want to register to vote in the United States of America, you have to be a citizen in the United States of America. And this piece of federal legislation will direct states to remove non-citizens from the voter rolls. I just had a conversation with the president about it.
Thank you, Caroline. I have two questions. Tariffs on South Korea. As you know, President Trump recently mentioned increasing tariffs on South Korea. When will the 25% tariffs increasing on South Korea begin? Secondly, what impact will this have on national security?
Sure. I don't have a timeline for you on that, but I will make sure that our trade team here at the White House gets you an answer swiftly and promptly. John.
Thank you so much, Caroline. Yesterday, President Trump, in the NBC interview, said that it bothers me that somebody is going after Bill Clinton. That somebody is the House Oversight Chairman, James Comer, a Republican. Why is the president bothered that they're investigating Bill Clinton and his Epstein ties?
Look, I think that the president has respect for the former president of the United States Bill Clinton. He said yesterday himself they've shared a good relationship, and that's what he was reiterating in that NBC interview. Go ahead.
Caroline, can you tell us a little bit about the agenda for tomorrow's talks with the Iranians? What will be the focus of the discussions?
Diplomacy moving forward. The president has obviously been quite clear in his demands of the Iranian regime. Zero nuclear capability is something he's been very explicit about, and he wants to see if a deal can be struck. And while these negotiations are taking place, I would remind the Iranian regime that the president has many options at his disposal, aside from diplomacy, as the commander-in-chief of the most powerful military in the history of the world. Washington Examiner, go ahead.
Lynchburg County, Virginia is the third local law enforcement is defying the blue government's demand that they no longer cooperate with ICE. There's a lot of red counties that are thumbing their nose at the blue government, blue states leadership, telling them not to cooperate with ICE. Will this administration support those counties in any way? Support them either through legal help or?
Absolutely. And if there is a county in this country, whether it's red or blue, that seeks to cooperate with the federal government to remove violent, illegal criminal aliens from their communities, this administration is here to help. You've heard the calls from the president himself on asking Democrats and Republicans across the country to call on the Trump administration to work with them, not against them, in the matter of public safety and securing our homeland. Thank you all very much. You'll hear directly from the president tonight at 7 o'clock, and I hope everybody has a good weekend. Happy Super Bowl weekend. The president has wisely chosen not to make a prediction in Sunday night's game, but as a native girl from New Hampshire, go Patriots. Thank you, guys.
All right, we're going to take a 2-minute break, folks. We'll be back right after this. All right, folks, welcome back. Governor Stein held a press conference today to talk about behavioral health and how to fill in the gaps for local law enforcement, especially when they go on calls where someone might be having an episode that's related to mental health. So here's more from him on the investment that they're going to make in this area.
Of course, the vast majority of people with mental health challenges don't pose any risk. They don't pose risk to others. They may not even pose risks to themselves, although sometimes they do. However, a small minority of people who are experiencing paranoid delusions can pose a risk to public safety when their serious mental illness goes untreated. Everyone deserves access to care, and these moments have shown us that our system needs to work better. Better for the people who are suffering, better for those who are around them, and better for the entire community. I've spent the past several months meeting with law enforcement officers and mental health care providers across the state. I visited behavioral health urgent care centers, facility-based crisis centers like the one that Natasha Holley, where's Natasha? Hiding back there behind me. She runs one in Pitt County, and these facilities are truly impressive and important institutions. My team and I have asked law enforcement, they've asked mental health providers, we've asked state and local public officials, where are the gaps? What are they? What are we doing right? What do we need to do more of? And the answers to those questions have led us to today's executive order. I'm directing the Department of Health and Human Services, Department of Public Safety, the Department of Adult Correction, and the Office of State Human Resources to take unified action to strengthen our behavioral health and criminal justice systems for both young people and adults alike. We will support people in crisis at different stages, and this is not for all of mental health. The mental health solution is very, very broad. We're focused on the nexus, the connection where mental health can link to public safety. First, when a person experiences a behavioral health crisis before any crimes have been committed. First, interacting with law enforcement or mental health care providers. Second, during incarceration for those people who have committed crimes. And then third, when they reenter communities following incarceration. These actions will help people, support officers and healthcare workers, and keep us all safer. Let's start at the beginning. When someone is in a crisis and they or someone else calls 911. Law enforcement often responds to these calls for service, whether a crime has been committed or not, because we all know that law enforcement is there for us 24/7. But that can take an officer off the street fighting crime, and there may be other people who are more professionally trained to deal with the person's crisis. That is why we must expand the co-responder model here in North Carolina. That's when you join law enforcement in coordination with social workers and mental health professionals to respond to service calls. Whether it's embedding a social worker at the 911 dispatch to identify which person should be responding to which call, or strengthening the relationship between 911 calls and 988 calls. 988 calls go to the National Suicide Behavioral Health Crisis Line, and it's intended to divert traffic from 911 calls, which should be focused on criminal justice calls. We need to make sure that the public knows about 988 and that its operators coordinate with 911 operators to route the right type of assistance to the right person, the right call. And that's why Delanice being here and lifting up 988 is so important. We also need to know that the public knows about these calls. We have to improve our involuntary commitment process in the state. Involuntary commitment is a needed resource for folks who are struggling with mental health issues or substance use who might hurt themselves or others. Involuntary commitment, or IVC as it is known, those petitions are increasing, but we don't have enough beds to treat all of the people who need them. So I'm directing the Department of Health and Human Services to consult broadly and to recommend IVC reforms for the state. I applaud the efforts by the House IVC Committee and the North Carolina Collaboratory for also tackling this critical issue, and we must work together in a coordinated fashion as part of this executive order to identify and lift up the best solutions to this most challenging of issues. Next, we have to ensure that if people need treatment while they're in prison, they get it. 3/4 of people entering Department of Adult Correction custody have substance use issues. 40% have mental health issues. Those numbers are even higher for juveniles. 98% of juveniles committed in our state have at least one mental health diagnosis. 98%. 90% of people who are in prison will leave eventually. 90% of the people who are incarcerated will get out. These problems do not solve themselves just by time passing. They need to have interventions to address the underlying issues. And we kick these problems down the road at our own peril. Getting folks on a path to recovery and stability while they are in custody will help them to lead productive and positive lives when they get out, instead of getting caught up in crime again. It keeps us all safer. I'm directing DHHS and DAC to collaborate on standardizing and improving the state's existing treatment management program in the Department of Corrections. I'm asking DPS, the juveniles are with DPS and the adults are with adult correction. I'm asking DPS and DHHS to provide recommendations on creating juvenile-specific mental health crisis unit that will help get these young folks the appropriate care they need when they are in our youth development centers. Finally, additionally, we need to strengthen our supports when people are reentering the community after incarceration. 18,000 people will leave a state prison this year and come back into the community. This is referred to as reentry, and reentry can be a very challenging time of transition. If people do not have the support that they need in place when they get out, it's all the more likely they will repeat the behaviors that led them to getting incarcerated in the first place. I'm directing DAC and DHHS to recommend strategies on improving and expanding supports for people with mental health conditions who are leaving custody, whether it's getting them connected to healthcare services, housing, or job opportunities. These strategies will further the state's ongoing Reentry 2030 goals. As we're looking to strengthen all parts of our behavioral health and criminal justice systems, we must support our frontline workers, the public safety and behavioral health workforce, who are doing the hard and important work of serving people in need. Our law enforcement and correctional officers who keep our communities safer, and our behavioral health workers who provide people with critical treatment, they are the backbone of public safety and public health in this state. Yet we have too many vacancies in these essential professions, and when we don't meet our staffing needs, it just adds to the burnout of those who are doing this hard and important work. The vacancies we have in these positions, they're not just numbers. They have a real impact on our lives. At the Department of Adult Correction, we have a vacancy rate of nearly 50% for correction officers. 1 out of every 2 positions is unfilled. It shouldn't be a surprise, frankly. Starting correctional officer pay in North Carolina is 49th in the country. At DHHS, even though there is a long wait list of people needing inpatient treatment in North Carolina, a quarter of our inpatient units that could serve as many as 300 people sit empty simply because we don't have the staff to serve them. We've spent all this money on this facility. The units are there and they are empty, even though there is a long line of people in waiting to get that kind of care. Why? Because we're not paying the nursing assistants enough money to have enough of them to serve those people. It's a travesty. I'm also directing OSHR to help DAC, DHHS, and DPS to identify and expand promising recruitment efforts, implement retention programs, address staffing shortages, and make policy recommendations. Whether it's paying law enforcement, juvenile justice staff, correctional officers, or nursing assistants more, or increasing the state's capacity to handle involuntary commitment petitions, I am counting on the General Assembly to partner with us in this work. I'm grateful to see so many legislators here today. My team and I have been talking with legislators about this executive order as we have put it together, and there is a lot of common ground on these issues. As we embark on these efforts, I want to underscore that we're not starting from scratch. There is important and positive work already underway in this state. I have been inspired by what I have been seeing as I travel the state. And I want to recognize all of the people and organizations who are already enhancing behavioral health care and public safety in our state. Their voices were instrumental in shaping this executive order. and you will be essential to our collective success. I also want to underscore that there are many policy interventions outside of mental health care, outside of the criminal justice system, that matter. Folks need a way to pay for their health care and their kids' health care. That's why I'm continuing to urge the General Assembly to fully fund Medicaid, the primary payer of behavioral health services in this state. Folks need nutrition to be healthy. That's why we work so hard to save the Sunbucks program for this summer to fight against food insecurity for children during the summertime, which is the hungriest time of the year because they're not in school getting those school meals. I urge the General Assembly to leverage these federal funds next year and going forward. It's why we are laser focused on protecting North Carolina's SNAP program in the face of dramatic federal cuts. Folks need stable housing. That's why we are working to build more special needs housing and more housing of all types by lowering rents. And people need good jobs. That's why I'm so committed to excellent public schools and real job opportunities in every corner of North Carolina. People need to have the skills and knowledge to succeed in an ever-changing economy and get good jobs with good wages. This executive order is not intended to remedy all of our challenges, but we have a real problem staring us on the face, and the people of North Carolina deserve us to make progress. Everyone wants to live in a safe place. Families are looking for answers when their loved ones are in crisis. People who make a mistake in the past are trying to get their lives back on track. For all of us, we have a solemn responsibility to enhance access to health care and to strengthen our criminal justice system. That's how we will build a safer and stronger North Carolina. I want to thank you all for being here this morning, and I will now bring forward Kelly Crosby from the Department of Health and Human Services. Kelly.
Thank you, Governor Stein, for that kind introduction. And thank you for your commitment to improve mental health care across North Carolina for all North Carolinians. I want to say a special thank you to Daylanice for being with us today and for her mom, Badia, who's in the audience. Thank you guys for being here. My name is Kelly Crosby, and as the governor said, I'm the director of our Division of Mental Health, Developmental Disabilities, and Substance Use Services for our Department of Health and Human Services. This executive order marks a milestone for North Carolina. It recognizes the important role of mental health in the health and safety of our communities here in North Carolina. It's critical that we're reaching people who are in the justice system or at risk of being involved in the justice system. People who are in crisis deserve and need care. The governor already gave you some statistics. People who are in prison, 40% of people in prison self-identify as having mental health issues. 75% of people in prison identify as having substance use issues. I'm proud to say for the past 2 years, DHHS, with our partner cabinet agencies, with our partners in the community, you all are here today, we've been working hard on the very issues addressed in this executive order. But the executive order gives us new strength, it gives us new directives to continue the good work together. We have focused on improving crisis supports, improving services to adults and children in the justice system, and also strengthening our workforce. We need more workforce. Let me tell you about some of our standout accomplishments, and many of our partners are here today who are part of those accomplishments. We talked about 988. We've continued to expand 988. We reach over 12,000 North Carolinians every day, and 988 is able to de-escalate crises, link people to care, send out mobile crisis teams into the community to consult with 911, to consult with law enforcement. It helps people in that moment of crisis. The governor mentioned crisis centers. We've opened 6 new behavioral health urgent cares, 1 new facility-based crisis, that's a community crisis center, and 2 new peer respite centers. These are all places in the community that divert people from being arrested. They divert people from going into the emergency room. They provide safe, therapeutic care for people in desperate need of mental health treatment. We've supported 4 new co-response teams, And we've expanded a program called MOORS. It is a crisis team specifically for adolescents and their families. It is community-based and go into the home. It can go into schools. We expanded that in 16 counties across the state. We've also expanded additional programs that support people in the justice system or at risk of being in the justice system. We've expanded in 6 counties our law enforcement assisted diversion program. That diverts people who are arrested into treatment as soon as possible. We have 10 new FACT teams. FACT teams are forensic community treatment teams that provide intensive wraparound services to individuals leaving carceral settings in the community. We have provided additional supports to youth in the juvenile justice system. A program called TalkSpace, it's available to youth statewide on demand so they can get counseling whenever they need it for the mental health issues. As the governor said, 98% of those children who are involved in the juvenile justice system have mental health concerns and they need treatment as soon as possible. We've also expanded right here in Wake County a capacity restoration program, which is a jail-based mental health program. That program joins the Mecklenburg jail-based program and the Pitt County jail-based program. So people with serious mental health issues who are incarcerated can get mental health treatment while they are incarcerated. We've also been working on increasing our mental health workforce. We announced a very broad loan forgiveness programs for mental health providers who are willing to provide service in our system. And we announced a joint public leadership program with 25 schools of social work that rewards people, it trains people to come into the public system, but also rewards them for years of service in the system. So we're making great strides, but we know there's a lot more that we've got to do. The governor's executive order will lead us all forward together, and it will create real change for communities across the state. I'm grateful for our community. I'm grateful for my state sister agencies. I'm grateful for all the folks behind me that are working together to create a healthier and safer North Carolina. Now I'm going to introduce my new friend and my colleague, Secretary Jeff Smythe from the Department of Public Safety.
All right, folks, rounding out our 2 hours here on WCNC Plus. Do not forget, tomorrow's the opening ceremony for the Olympics, which we will have for you for the entirety of the Olympics in Milan Cortina. Thanks for joining us tonight. We'll see you at the 11.